let's continue to, well, with me, I've always said I wanted to do better than I did yesterday.
Yep.
What with the election, how do we move forward in our community, with the Black community? Donald Trump has said that the Black community is in hell. We are, we have no money, we have no education, we have no jobs.
What do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose? And my thing was everything.
Yeah,
so what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on, on all
Well,
that?
I'm a Johnny come lately. I mean, I don't have the answer. The answer was given to us years ago when Booker T. Washington said, start where you are with what you have, knowing that what you have is plenty enough. And what did he say? What is responsibility? It is respond with ability. And there's no need to fear. Because Martin Luther King said, the arc of the universe always bends towards justice. I mean, that's a part of karma. So he's in office right now, but that psychic and that universal karma is bending towards truth. And what do we have to do? Again, what are the goals? What are you trying to do? We live in a time period where we talk about collective activism and we talk about unifying and joining ranks. But today's time period is a little bit different. We are in sort of as I said, a universal time period that is based off of you. And, it might be nice that we join forces in the Black community, but, Donald Trump and the Republican Party and the way that this country is going right now has served notice that if you're going to reach goals and objectives, what are you as an individual doing? And that is the bottom line. You made the comment that Black America's poor, blah, blah, blah. Let's start with that. The fact of the matter is that, 34 million African Americans strong, and we are the 16th wealthiest country on the face of the earth. 16th wealthy. Here we are on Black Friday, and our buying power is $1.6 trillion. Well, I mean, when you look at the GDP of America, it's only $17 trillion. We are 1/10 of it. So, just like Moses, when he was buttressed up against the Red Sea and Pharaoh's armies coming, he gets on his knees and he says, Lord, why have you forsaken me? And what did the Lord of heavenly hosts say? Why does thou cry unto me? So I'm saying the same thing to Black America. Why does thou cry unto me? You've got the resource. You got the money, you got the capital. Your problem isn't poverty. Your problem is that you're broke. You give your money away. I mean, when you look at the top brands out there, Wall Street would collapse tomorrow if we would just withhold our money and just spend it in your community. Do what every other community does. The average dollar stays in the East Indian community for 45 days before leaving. The average dollar stays in the Asian community 24 days before leaving. The average dollar stays in the Jewish community 17 days before leaving. Average dollar stays in Black community for 6 hours before leaving. As a matter of fact, if we get paid on a Friday, we won't wait till Monday. No, we got to go to a little ATM machine and cash that check on a Saturday. And that's why they even open on a Saturday. Banks open half a day on a Saturday. Who? For Rhythm Nation. Change the way that you think about money. Change the way that you think about opportunity. What is entrepreneurship? Black businesses, they're problem solvers. You solve a small problem, make a little bit of money, but you solve a big problem and you get bank like Hank. And I know that maybe you don't want to hear that.
No,
all right.
no,
So we quote unquote lost the election. Well, you gotta, join forces, and I'm not saying you gotta be for Donald Trump, but you're gonna have to operate with those folks who are in power right now. And how do you let them know that you got power? Gandhi said it years ago. There's only one way for you to give up your power, and that's to think that you're powerless. Okay? Don't think that you're powerless. Start looking for opportunities to make a difference. Start looking for opportunities to make inroads. Start making opportunity to change your community. And that's what we got to do right now.
So do you think we'll ever come together as a unit?
Yeah, we're doing that now.
Okay.
That's why I love Black Lives Matter. I mean, we're doing that. I'm not saying Black Lives Matter is sacrosanct. It's not any challenge or whatever. I was on a radio show and the host, we were talking about economic development, and sure enough, it turned to police and Black Lives Matter. She wanted my take on it. And I said, we're in the middle of a perfect storm. She said, what do you mean? I said, on one hand, you got, criminal justice system that has zero regard for the Black community. I didn't say no regard. I said zero regard. Now, My brother, he was a state trooper. That's what he did for. I got two nephews who are law enforcement. You know, one works in drugs and the other one works blah, blah, blah. And law, so I know he's got zero regard.
Good evening, book club members. Good evening. Good evening, Tommy Lynch. How are you, sir?
I am good. A moment here. I'm just trying to get back to my. Okay, here we go. You see me now? Well,
Yeah. So you fine. Well, I see. I would say I see your hologram. But there you go.
There we go.
So great. Well, good afternoon. Look, I was. Thank you so much for putting that video on. I thought it was really good to kind of talk. That little piece was actually the meat and potatoes that I really wanted to see, which hopefully I'll look at it a little bit later. But it was just talk about how money transfers hands, and it takes about 17 days for the Jewish community for money to turn over, 24 days for I think the Hispanic community, and it talked about I think it says 34 days.
34 days, I think, in the
Asian community.
Jewish community, I think 6 days.
No, not 6 days, 6 hours.
Oh, sorry, he did say 6 hours, didn't he? Yeah, 6 hours, right.
Yeah, 6.
The American community. That's sad, man. That's pretty
yeah.
sad. Hey, welcome Peter and Tanya, guys. I see you guys jumped on. Welcome guys to the call. Yeah, but what we're talking about is how our last video we looked at, guys, talked about how long the money stays in different communities. We just got down to the fact that the money stays in the African American community 6 hours.
6 hours.
Right.
They were talking about how they can't assume that, but they were saying how people have Saturday banking for people who, he called it something, but it was more so the ATM mentality.
Yeah, he called it Rhythm Nation.
Say it again.
He called it Rhythm Nation. I don't know what the correlation is. I have to look that up maybe in an urban dictionary or something. But he mentioned it set that up for the Rhythm Nation. I don't know what that really means though. I'll have to get some clarification on that.
Oh, cool. Well, that was really interesting. I'm glad you started off with that. I'm gonna have to get that back and go back to that one and look at it myself, because I thought it was really interesting how he kind of pinpointed how money cycles. And I've heard that many times before in other communities, how the money stays in that community for so long a period of time. And what happens is that it brings wealth into that particular community. So he was saying that with the Black Lives Matter and different things like that he sees on the horizon, that the African American community could get more stable and more collaborative of keeping money in the community. He was saying that we are the 16th largest nation, which is really phenomenal to hear. I think I've seen it on another video that he talked about as well. But let's talk about a couple of things we left off a couple of weeks ago in reference to chapter 2, talking about the 9 drivers of wealth. I just want to kind of restate those, and then we can kind of finish up chapter 2 and then go into chapter 3. So chapter 2 talked about the haves and have-nots, and he did talk about the 9 drivers of wealth. They were talking about first life, and it just says for the have-nots, it says survival, whereas the haves, it's about achievement. The second one is in reference to your family unit, and it has the have-nots, has the matriarch, I can't say it right, the matriarch, and then it has the haves, the patriarch, or the legacy part of the actual family unit. He talked about a couple of things in reference to finishing school, getting married, and he kind of talked about how a lot of the Black millionaires that he saw, that they had a father figure in their life, and that was one of the common things that he saw with Black millionaires. So that was really important to that particular piece. The third one was education. Education is talking about K-12 through lifelong learning, talking about being an avid learner. that the person really, usually according to the survey, the overwhelming majority of respondents purchased 20 books per year, and types of books they read often was either motivational, self-help, or business. So that was good to know. The fourth driver was money. Talked about acting poor, acting rich. And they were saying they are willing to spend money in order to make money, but they are always in a position to tell their money where to go rather than asking it where it has gone. So that was a good point. Number 5, talked about work. Necessary, evil, and life work. It says, do what you love and the money will follow. Number 6, time present in the past and future. And one of the bits there was saying, if you fail to respect this invaluable resource, I doubt that you will respect anything else. So that was good. Also, relationships, talks about that. It says, in a word, Black Millionaires Network for financial elite networking, it means reaching a goal and achieving an objective, even if they literally lack the funds or resources. So it's just saying that they know how to resource and network, plan your work, and to remain flexible, push yourself out of your comfort zone, lean on your network, and then stay positive. Let's see. Number 8, destiny, fame, and dream. One of the tidbits that I saw here, it says, who find themselves born to perform a specific task. I think I wrote that down. Let me see what else that I have highlighted. Okay, it says, how you think is who you will become. That's cool. Number 9, faith and spirituality, talking about praise and practice. What is the link? If people have not developed spiritual wealth, no amount of money will make them happy. And then last but not least, it says for lesson 3 here on page 109, it says the poor keep score by cars and clothes. The middle class keeps score by degrees and titles, but the wealthy keep score by their bank accounts. That is phenomenal. When I heard that the first time, I was like, you know what? I've heard the first 2 pieces, and then that third piece, I never really heard it put that way, but it makes total sense. Anybody want to add to those 9 drivers?
The only thing that stuck out to me, well, not the only thing, but one of the things that stuck out to me too is there was a phrase in there that said, in pursuit of financial success, that basically they did through prayer or meditation daily.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there's been a lot of talk about doing meditation,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the morning. But I did find it interesting that a lot of the successful people mentioned in this book do meditation.
Yeah.
A lot of them have been people of faith. I see faith as a thing that really stands on a lot in this book.
Right, it does. They have a lot of spirituality. So that's important too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this chapter 3, I think that brings it in, LT, very well. Matter of fact, I know we talked about meditation and stuff like that and everything in spirituality, but chapter 3, believe in thyself when no one else will. And it just talks about the 3rd law of wealth. And when I was reading through this a little bit, and you guys definitely chime in, you heard faith. You heard faith over and over and over and over again. And it was a situation where I think in a lot of us, especially with a lot of the microaggressions that happen in the workplace, sometimes, things happen and you think, oh, is something I'm doing, or is it some reason why I'm not getting where I need to be, or is it something that's holding me back? And I think a lot of things, as Dr. Kimbrough has talked through this particular piece, he's saying that I think we have started in the African American community have kind of bought into these things, saying that I'm not good enough, or I can't do it, or someone's holding me back or whatever that is, and how we're tying in our faith. And like our ancestors, they didn't reap the benefits of a lot of things that we have come to see, but they knew that they continue to keep on with a good work ethic. They continue to have their faith and pray and continue to do the works, that eventually someone down in that line would eventually reap and prosper what they sowed. And so I just thought, this is probably and I'll be honest with you, this is probably the chapter I kind of connected best with up to now, because I have such strong faith, and of course you guys kind of know my story and everything, but I think it's a situation where I was like, wow, this speaks to me, because when you come from a place, small town America, or a small place, or lower middle class family, and you kind of see your life limited and all around you. But then when you get away from that and you see all the possibilities, and you start to see that, okay, I can do these things. I can be this person. I can dream bigger. And I will say, let me talk through some of this, and then you guys can chime in. I was going to say, I really resonated with Kathy Hughes. And of course, I knew of Kathy Hughes definitely from Radio 1, TV 1, but I know a lot of her story well before the book. And it just resonated to me how she grew up from Oklahoma and was raised, and with her value system and everything. And she ended up getting pregnant and married early and everything, and ended up getting divorced. But she was able to kind of, I guess, her circumstances. That's why I said sometimes your spirituality and your faith and the walk, how we ask God to order our steps. She may not ever thought that she was going to own a radio station, no less be, a mogul of probably $500 $1 billion business. And so it's kind of like little things that happened with her. If she hadn't gone through some of the trials and tribulations that she went through, she would have never been on the right path. And so it kind of goes to show how sometimes we think things that happen to us that are setbacks, that really are set up for the comeback, as you call it. But it was pretty neat. So anyway, one of you guys can chime in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was actually particular. See, I've heard the name Kathy Hughes, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't know exactly who she was until I read this story. And I guess I'm the biggest thing I'm flabbergasted with about her is that she took such dire circumstance. I mean, she got to the point where she was sleeping on the floor,
a radio station,
in her radio station, in a drug infested, in a house that used to be a drug den. So that even tells me that it wasn't really a high class place. It was just a radio station that she placed inside of a house. A lot of times that's why they started. They started with the equipment inside of a house. Then they moved to a building that's more suited for business. And she took those circumstances that she had and just twisted them. I mean, she went from this thing to a college, and then she jumped out of that and went to where she spent like a couple of thousand, what was it, $995,000. Then she moved. Then she bought something that was 7.5. Then she bought something that was twin. Then she bought something like 430 million dollars, something crazy like that. And then when she looks back, she's saying, "Man, this is buck wild crazy." realizing what she came from, and even in the book it even talks about too that how sometimes, like you said, Sharon, your circumstances kind of polish you off. It rounds out right. It rounds out the edges and it forms you and makes you go in this direction. If your dream is still alive, I heard somebody say that if the dream is big enough, then the facts don't matter. If the dream is big enough, it don't matter that you got sleep on the floor. If the dream is big enough, it doesn't matter that you're a single mother, or that you're divorced, or that you're homeless. I mean, that's big.
That's huge.
That's big.
That's huge. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's one thing to, it's kind of like, to me, there's no way I can sit here and say, you know what, I can't do this or this or this or this after reading
Mhm.
this book.
Right.
There's no way.
Right.
Mhm.
What's your excuse now?
What's my excuse? Right. I have no excuse. I have no excuse whatsoever. So it does make you think. It does make you think about your abilities and what you can do, and what, if you put your mind to it and the faith behind it.
Mhm.
The huge dream requires huge faith.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Requires huge faith.
Well,
Huge
it
faith.
talks about, remember, if you guys, this is the reason why I kind of like the Kathy Hughes story. I remember the Quiet Storm. I remember in Memphis sitting at home.
Yeah.
My dad actually, it's one of the things that my dad actually did, and I really remembered that he gave me a radio with, with the tape, or the tape recorder, but tape cassette in it, and then you could play records on top of it, but you could play the radio part, and I would just play the radio part most of the time, and then at certain times of the day, I think maybe on Sundays, or it may have been every day, but it was certain days of the week, maybe even Saturdays, the Quiet Storm come on. And I remember the Quiet Storm coming on. When I saw this, I was like, I remember that. I remember that stuff would come on, and how it would soothe, just kind of bring you down, soothe, and all the oldies, the goodies now that I play, that we play around the house. That's how I learned all that stuff. And so when I think about Kathy Hughes and how she kind of really invented that in Howard University, how she started that based on kind of the feedback she was getting from other people, it really just goes to show that, like she said, you had to kind of listen to your clientele, and she learned from that. And so she ended up becoming one of the #1 radio stations in her market. But then that brought on to her, going to other radio stations, and then it was what was said to her. The guy was like, she said something about trying to play somebody else. I think it was someone, I can't tell what it was, whoever that particular artist was, but she was like, well, no. And they said, well, just get your own radio station. And then it popped in her head like, well, you're right. I need to get my own radio station. And so
Right.
it's
That
kind of
was-
like some of the adverse things that happens to us, where we look at it as something maybe wrong, or we may see as it a setback. And really, these are things that are helping us to push us forward to something that's bigger and greater than ourselves. And sometimes we don't take the charge or take the baton like we should. So this has really, really been eye-opening, because I didn't even, like I said, you would have known from, all the salutes that she gets on TV One, because her company owns TV One, and how they go on and have all these awards, and they talk about Kathy Hughes and different things like that. You wouldn't have known that Kathy Hughes slept on her floor of a radio station at one point with her son. You would have never known. The only thing you see now is the accolades, but a lot of times we forget that people have to go through these things to get to where they need to be. They're all don't start off as money with millionaires. They have to kind of walk the path, the same everyday path that we do every day, going to a 9 to 5 or working something, or working just over broke, as Tom will call it. Those different things, to get to where you need to be, but they had some type of faith, something that drove them, something that pushed them forward, that said, as we all say, and Shaw, I see you on as well, how we all say, and every last one of us has said, there's got to be something more than just getting up every day, going to a 9 to 5, making somebody else rich, and sending their children to college paid for free. Than for us to do this. So this is where I think it starts to churn in our brains to realize that, okay, so what are some of the aspirations and dreams that we know we need to be looking to, and then how do we step out on faith, saying that, okay, maybe we need to put a plan in place like they did, and say, I need to be doing something bigger with this particular talent. I know they were talking about, y'all go ahead. Someone else go ahead and talk. Let me get my thought together. I was going to talk about the lady with the pancake syrup. Go ahead, someone else go ahead and bring up your thoughts.
Yeah, you're kind of back to Ms. Hughes. You know, as a you know, like you said, we don't. All we know is what she's accomplished. But that's been a, we call it what, a overnight success. But that's been like that's a 45-year overnight success. Because a lot of us, we never heard of, unless you were really, you know, in tune in that crowd, and you up on all the up and coming people, then you would never known the things that she went through. So now we're reading it in hindsight, and like Tanya said, now now we say, well, maybe it's even best if we saw it at this point, because now, like, just like Tanya said, man, there's no excuse now.
No,
you can't make an excuse. So all those things those ideas that you entertained growing up, because like I said on the previous call, all of us get at least 4 ideas per year. And I don't know about you, but I do. I get ideas all the time, and I'm sitting right here, and I got air, nice cool air blowing on my back, and when wintertime I got nice warm air blowing. Got a refrigerator full of food. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's in good health. So what's my excuse? What's my excuse? I don't have to go out and work because my family's, we got to keep our lights on, water's running still, cars are running. So I can't say I don't have no transportation. I can't say that I'm cold, that I'm hot, that I'm hungry, but they don't have no shelter. So what's our excuse? So we really gotta dig deep and utilize at least 1 or 4 of those ideas that we get every year. Some of us more, some of us less. Put those things to work and stop making excuses. Because trust me, if you ain't doing it, you got some. You done talk yourself out of doing it. What if Kathy Hughes had? What do you think she would be today? Maybe just working a job, maybe just barely making it, maybe so, maybe not. That's something we'll never know. But we do know now that because of her tenacity and her drive and her push to be better and do better and leave legacy for her offspring, we see where she is now, in spite of her inability to get it done earlier.
Well, I see on page 121, that's what we were talking about earlier, saying the creator may see a rough diamond in you that only the hard hits of poverty, doubt, and rebuke can polish.
Right.
Have you been given your marching orders? So that is what I think about in even my life. I think about some things and I'm like, good gracious, wow, that's a lot. Or
yeah,
you've been through a lot of things. And because I'm not the only person on here that has been through some struggles. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is that some things you go through and you're trying to figure out, okay, what is God trying to tell me? What is he trying to push me through? What order or what path that he's trying to put me on that I can see something different? And so I think that's kind of where Kathy Hughes and Dr. Kimbrough talks about here. They talk about, different people, Tyra Banks, and talk about Steve Harvey, Kirk Franklin. He kind of mentions a couple of different people, but he also starts to mention Terry McMillan.
Yeah.
Talks about her story about how she, I didn't hear you.
Ben Carson.
Yeah, Ben Carson and different things like that. Then he also starts talking about Johnny Cochran, which, of course, I think most of us definitely know who Johnny Cochran is, definitely with the O.J. Simpson case, and how he was, definitely one that was transformative in reference to that verdict there, and talks about how he talked to him and some of the things that he brought up was, definitely finding your talent, making sure you do your homework with making your own investment decisions, making sure that you buy into your fiscal thinking and monetary outlook.
Yeah.
Which is really huge, because a lot of times we're never really taught. I know we talked about this a couple of sessions back. We never really taught so much about money. We talked about money to a point, but you have to kind of catch a lot of things from your parents, your grandparents, or people around you in reference to how do they handle money, but are we really taught about how to invest? And I think just kind of talking through it with, Johnny Cochran was talking about just kind of how he thought about himself and how he brought people around him, the best strategists, the best lawyers, the best financial advisors and different things like that around him. And knowing that he probably wasn't the best at some of these things, that he brought these people around him and he assembled a great team of people around him in order to make these decisions in his professional life, but also in some of the personal things that he dealt with as well. So that was pretty neat.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. How he, just to rehash what you said, how he, see, I think what Dr. Kimbrough is implying here is that you don't have to be the best at everything, but so you have to be able to relinquish those duties to somebody that you know that has your best interest at heart, somebody that already knows. For instance, we can look at LaTanya. She's a CPA, so she looks at money all day. She probably dreams numbers. Okay. So if I got an issue, if I got something if I have something that I want to make happen in that arena, then I feel like it goes down her path, then yeah, I'm gonna turn it over to LaTanya and say, hey babe, this is what I need you to do. Take a look at this. Or Miss Shalonda, she looks at numbers all day, dealing with, I think at one time she was dealing with a lot of loans and things. But if I have something that I'm working on that I feel that falls in her wheelhouse, then yeah, I'm gonna give her a call and I'm gonna relinquish that responsibility to her. You don't need me sitting around trying to figure out something that I don't know nothing about. And so I think what he was saying there is have enough sense to understand what you don't understand. Because Johnny Carson, he said that he had the best this, he had the best this and the best that and the best this, and then he let them discuss it and then he moved on. He didn't hover right there. He just gave them the information. Then they respond to whatever it was they were working on, and then they allow him to make a better decision.
Yeah, I'm talking about here, brought up the pieces with Terry McMillan. I read this and I had to come back to it again, but Terry McMillan talked about, it says overnight success that took 20 years in the making. Terry McMillan, of course, Terry McMillan is the New York best-selling author of Waiting to Exhale. And so she was just talking about how she went through several different books. First book called Mama, and then they had a second book there, but then she really became famous and more well-known in reference to her third book, and just talks about how she would read other books starting off in the library. I think when she said that her father, something happened with her father. I think her father left the family, or something happened when he got sick or something like that. And said she had to take a job in the library in order to supplement the income in the household, and how she really started to have a love of books and novels and different things. And she started to be introduced to other Black playwrights like Richard Wright and different things like that. And how she saw that there was a gap there in the Black community in reference to Black fiction, which we still see that today. We don't see a lot of Black fiction books in reference to relationships or different things like that, and how she was able to come in and kind of tap into some of that environment. So she pretty much started to do that and everything, and spent several months on top of the New York Times bestseller list with Waiting to Exhale. And they talked about how the actual movie itself generated about $67 million in the market for Black movies, which became a movie, of course. And I think here, the biggest thing they talked about was just how her faith brought her through all those different trials and tribulations, how, having a book publishing deal and those different things was hard to come by in those particular days, and how she had to go through those different trials, but she kept going until she was able to find a book deal and different things like that. So one of the things that I highlighted in the book on page 127, it says, faith is a friend and is willing to ally to the down and out, the have-nots, and those who complain that the door to financial success is locked and gated. What does that mean?
Wow.
Repeat that again, Sharon.
it says faith is a friend and is a willing ally to the down and out, the have-nots, and those who complain that the door to financial success is locked and gated.
Yes, about about.
What is that telling? What is that telling us though? That's what are they trying to say there?
That's just like we talked about before.
Matter
That
the
faith.
Mm-hmm.
It's that faith. You've got to have faith,
no matter the circumstance.
no matter the circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I think about like just this week,
Mhm.
how, you know, you get on a job and you just still don't feel fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
The money, the increase is coming, and it's just still quite not fulfilled. But you talk yourself into staying because you think about, oh, well, I got a kid going to college. I need health insurance. Need my 401k. You think about the vacation time. You think about all these things that, wow, I don't know if I can step out on that limb and walk away from all of that because you have gotten accustomed to having what we call our resources or our sources to maintain, you know, just this same lifestyle. You're comfortable, like Tom said, the lights are on, food in the refrigerator, car working fine. But then when you think about the unknown, Lord, to say, hey, I'm gonna walk away
Mm-hmm.
from being able to not know if I'm going to be able to provide for my family the next month, keep a home, a roof over my head.
Mm-hmm.
So I take those words as if no matter what the circumstance is, as long as you have faith, God will give you the desires of your heart. He'll line it up to where you'll get everything that you need and more in abundance. So, I mean, that's how I take that. I have been thinking about it a lot this week. And, I think about, where my faith is. And, don't get me wrong, I have to continue working at it. I have to continue going to the Lord. I have to continue, talking to him to, help me make it through each day. But yeah, that faith thing is I mean, it's serious. As long as you have it and it's unconditional, you can withstand anything. So that's the way I take it.
That's good. Shalom, I'm not even gonna add anything to that because you hit that nail right on the head for real. I mean, you hit that nail right smack dab on the head. I mean, that's exactly how I feel about it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real. I think it's, I kind of have a couple of highlights in here, but I think about, some of the things that we all have talked about in reference to kind of what we want to see. And so I think what happens is twofold. We know where the end is. We know where we want to ultimately be, right? But I think the questions come in and say, okay, we're currently right here. So we know where we are and we know where we want to be, but it's kind of like, how do you get there? And so everybody's path is going to be different.
Right.
And I think what happens is that this particular chapter really does highlight the faith part. It's like, okay, so if you have a dream, you have a desire, you have something that you're looking into, how do you tap into that? How do you get that? How do you get there? That means that you may have to do something different than what you've been doing, because when we talk about the definition of insanity is thinking that you're going to get the same, you're going to do the same things and get a different result. You got to do something different to get there. So that means that now I realize that I'm tapping into that faith, listening to all these different people, these entrepreneurs who have been successful. They didn't get there by not falling on their face, or not, or someone telling them no, or telling them you're not good enough, or it's not, you're not, like Terry McMillan said, oh no, don't write, you need to keep your day job. I think that's what they told her.
Right.
And stuff like that. And it's like, what if she really listened to them? So I think about kind of some of the things that I'm thinking about doing, and I think about me, and I'm like, okay, Sharon, let's stop being scared. Let's stop thinking you're not good enough. Let's stop sitting here making excuses. I'm tired. My
Right.
job is too demanding. Those are excuses
Right.
for me to not get where I need to be.
Right. Stop
Is it-
thinking about, well, what if I'm not successful? What if I fail?
Right, right.
Right.
And all throughout this book,
That-
all we've seen is people doing stuff and then failing, but keeping on going.
Right. Even thinking about even at my age, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm reading this book and we're talking, yeah, it took them 20 years, for that success or but I think about, okay, I'm 50. What time do I have
Mhm.
that I can really invest 20 years? I don't know what tomorrow brings. But when I think about my age at this point, you have certain regrets, and you're not supposed to, but you have certain regrets because you think at 50, where can how can I accomplish to be able to be that successful person like Terry McMillan and Johnny Cochran and all those others when they had an earlier start.
Mhm.
So once again, that has to go back to my faith to know that where I lack, God will give it to me 2, 3 times, 4 times in
Mhm.
abundance, that I haven't missed it over the years. But those are the things that your mind play games on. It makes you think why
Mhm.
you can't do it, why you shouldn't do it,
Right,
why you shouldn't
right.
step out on faith. I don't know if I got off the subject, but I was just thinking about that. Sorry, guys. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. It's all
No,
good. I mean,
that's
this is a
You know what?
discussion. It's just a discussion.
No, I
Yeah.
mean, you right on the money, because I think like even that same page, it says whatever position I have attained or even where you are is due to my faith. God gives us what we need when we really need it. That's
Right.
exactly what you just said. It was like, okay, so what? We're 50. Some of us 48 with
You didn't even
Whatever.
go there.
Wow,
You
she
can't
had to
even
put
go
that
there.
in there, right?
Right. The babe
Right.
of the group. Right. Whatever.
That's all right. You beat
I'm,
us.
I'm gonna get
Be
there, but
there
what,
soon.
I'm gonna
Right.
get there. Keep
Keep
as
on living.
my grandmother say, just keep living.
Keep
Right.
living.
I'll
Right.
get there. But my point of saying that is that it doesn't matter our age, because there's a lot of people in this book who did not get successful financially until they were later on in life. And I think what happens is that, of course, the new 50 is 50 is the new 30. That's what I'm trying to say. Is that now people are living longer and you're looking good. We're more healthier now. So 50 is not what the 50 was back in the day. So for us, we may have another 30 years of working, and it may not be in corporate America, or it may not be professionally, maybe for ourselves before we decide to retire. And my biggest thing is that God always shows us the way if we pay attention. And a lot of times, like we all of us just said, we have some insecurity that is holding us back for taking the next step on what we know should be our next step to the end goal that we want to be. But it may be like I think LT, you talked about this when we were in Tybee. You were saying what I want to start doing is maintaining what I have, but I also want to start after a certain time in the day. When I end my day, I want to start working on my business, and that may be what we have to start doing, is doing things after we get off work. Knowing we got to supplement our income somewhere, but start working on some other things. And it may be multiple things. It may not just be one thing that we have to kind of start tapping into, because if you realize, even some of the people that we read about, they had more than one thing at times.
Yep, definitely.
So I mean, it just kind of goes to show that it's never too late. Even this is the story I was going to talk about. Michelle Hoskins, talk about her and her story in reference to setting up her
A serpent pancake.
her syrup line and her pancake line and stuff. And so she talked about how this particular recipe had been given down from different generations of her great grandmother, who was a slave, and how she made this particular recipe. I guess someone asked her to make it or whatever, and so
Or a master.
Yeah, and so she ended up teaching it, and they gave the recipe down to every third daughter or something like that. And so as it came down to her mother was probably that third daughter in the family, and her mom only had her. And so by the time she came along, her mom really didn't want to give it to her. She was like, but mom, I mean, you don't have to give it to me. You know, it's how you going to give it to the next generation. So eventually mom did and everything. And so she started to, you know, she had worked a part-time job. She got divorced and different things like that. And so she started to go back to that recipe, but she was like, you know what, I think she had a party or something, or she made breakfast or someone like that. She thought about it in her mind that there's something to this. And so she ended up saying, I need to do something with this. So it was just how ironic how a slave gave the recipe to a future generation on how to be wealthy. I mean, it was just crazy when I read that. It was like how she thought about it. She thought about how this has been pushed through the generations, and it was her key to her success. And so it's kind of like some things we've had all along, but we just did not know it. And it's just cool because we have so many things that's probably been passed along to us, passed along down the generations, or different things or ideas that our parents talked about that we can probably use. Just like I think about even when I listen to the History Channel about the Bushes, the Anheuser-Busch, and how they did that, how, you know, with the Bush beer, how they actually started off with the recipe and that was brought on, and then they end up bringing it down generations and generations and generations and stuff. So it's kind of like I was saying earlier, our ancestors went through a lot of things in order for us to have the life that we have. And of course, we have a great life compared to what they had, but a lot of things they endured because they knew someone eventually would have the life that they dreamed of. And so it's kind of like, at some points, your faith, you get it innately from your ancestors. And in her case, I mean, she got her key to success from her ancestors too. Yeah.
So you talk about the Cirque lady.
Yeah, she got her keys to success. The key to her success came from her ancestor. It was like, wow, it came through all that stuff, and it was a situation where, you know, people, and I mean, I know it's recipes that's been passed on to me, you know, that I'd be like, wow, that would be great to have. I mean, I thought I just kind of resonated with her because I think about grandma's recipes and different things like that, and how I was like, wow, some of these things I know I need to write down because I need to make sure that the next generation has it, because you never know when that may come up. You know, we may get rich off something else, but then that may be another venture go down the line. You just never know. It may be the venture that opens up. You just don't know. What you know, sometimes I think people don't know, they don't always know exactly what their key is. I guess that's what I'm saying. It just sometimes just kind of falls in your lap.
Right, because see, the thing is that I think kind of what you're going with, where you're going with that, Sharon, is you gotta start somewhere. You gotta start doing something, and so you might start out doing one thing, but that thing that you're working on may morph into something different. And it looks like they all kind of like, even the Radio One lady. She had a yearning and a drive to own a radio station after she first enlisted. She just wanted to be in radio,
right?
But when she worked at the radio station, and she had built a radio station from the ground up, and then the owners ran out of money, okay, and they said, and she says, well, and they want her to secure a loan, okay, and so, but to secure a loan, she says, well, if I secure the loan, I want part of the business. That's when they told her, well, since you're so smart, why don't you buy your own radio station? Then she was like, oh, okay. Because so at first she just wanted to be in radio. But when they said that to her, she wanted to own the station, see? Mm-hmm. And see, so all these ladies seem to have started out in a place in an industry that they stayed in. But there's oftentimes when people start in other industries, and it morphs into something else. Maybe they wanted to be, maybe they wanted to be a chef, which maybe they want to be a chef, but maybe they discovered the chef wasn't what their calling was. Maybe their calling was to own a restaurant. You see what I'm saying? See how that morphed into being being a chef, which you can only duplicate yourself only one time as a chef. But if you own a restaurant and then you end up owning all the restaurants, then you duplicate yourself, 100 times, because you own restaurants just like the television lady did with the radio stations. So she's only one person, but now she owns what? And in the book it says she owned 22, what was it? 22, what was it? 43, 70 stations in 22 markets or something like that.
Yeah, she owns. I mean, even that's probably in this book. I don't know.
Mhm.
Book
It's
was
something
written,
like
but
that.
She owns a whole lot more now.
Right.
But this talked about TV1 when it just started up, and now TV1 has been established for several years, probably a decade now.
So kind of back what you were saying. Hey, Lord, looks like Lord just jumped on. So welcome to the call, man. So back to what you were saying, Sharon. It sounds like where you were going was that you got to start somewhere, and where you start may not end up where you end up at. That's all I'm saying.
But also, like, I think too, on page 130, it talked about nearly all millionaires surveyed for this study indicated that a major component to their financial success and their ability to overcome fear and low self-esteem is direct function of faith.
Wow, there's that faith again.
Mhm.
And
That
I'm
faith
telling
again.
you, that faith, and I guess that's kind of what I was saying, is that I think some of these people did not know how they were going to make their money. That's what I'm saying. But they had something in them, knew that there was something more. It's like we said, we think it's something more than what we're doing right today. We don't know how we're going to get there, but we know we're going to get here. But we got to start moving towards that. And I think that's kind of where they were just talking through that. And they said a couple of things that Michelle Hopkins talked about repeatedly on how they were saying how some of the things that she thought about, and she was just saying how she gave back, how they were letting the spirit move them, how they wanted to leave a legacy, and they had faith. And I think those 4 components that they thought about when they were going through these particular things. And they were just saying how the men and women in this study, how they defeated fear and worry, and primarily by unleashing their inner self-confidence and firm belief within their own abilities. Wow.
Right. And I can go back just a little bit, back on 127, when kind of leading into what you were saying. It said that back to that faith, he didn't mention the faith, but it says a zest for life on page 127 down the bottom. It says a zest for life. It said self-made millionaires approach every activity with inner belief and fervor. That says a lot, because that I think he talks about that in some inner belief somewhere in the front of this chapter. But that inner belief is that's kind of what you're saying. I know there's something I should be doing.
Something
I
else.
know that I should be doing this, or I know there's something I should be doing. I need to figure that out today.
Or a dream untapped, or something that should be burning a hole in my soul that I should be achieving, but I'm not there. Just like Shaw was saying earlier, you get raises on jobs, and let's say that's about 3 or 5%, a year at the most, probably. And what happens is that you have a goal for your professional life, and then when you get there, guess what? What's next? That's what you say. What's next? Because it's like, okay, I'm here, and I thought I'll be, yay, I'm here, but then you get there, and it's like, it's not what I thought it would be. I'm not as fulfilled as I thought I would be. So guess what? It's something else for me, right?
Right.
That's what it's saying. It's saying, okay, that's a dream that you obtained. That's a goal you obtained, but that is not fulfillment for you. So what's fulfilling for you? It's something that you love. It's something that you get up, that you wake up every morning, 3 or 4 in the morning, like a lot of these millionaires and billionaires say they do, and they're ready to rock and roll because they are excited about it. But we
Right.
sit here on Sunday night, and Shaw, we've talked about this several times. On Sunday night, we're dreading. It's called a Sunday dread for the morning, the Monday morning.
Right. Got to get our mind right.
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 For the next day, then that tells you automatically we're not doing what we love. We're doing to make a paycheck, or just over broke, as Tom, as you
Right.
call it. And so it's like at some points we got to start thinking about the next step to
Yep.
fulfill those voids that we have, because and don't get me wrong, I don't think everybody gets the opportunity. Don't get me wrong. It's hard to have something that you love, that you do every day, but we
Right.
should be trying to at least achieve it and reach it, right?
Right. Right. We should be.
We should be, and I think that's the biggest thing, because at some points working for someone else is not as attractive, is it?
Oh,
Not as it once was.
But I will say this, because just in I've read more books starting in 2015. I read more books from 2015 till today than I've read in my entire lifetime. And it's all about self-help. And I've heard somebody off my whole train of thought, guys. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I think
That's okay, but honestly, I don't know where you were going with that, but I think once we started, I guess, once this group started talking about what we wanted to do and where we wanted to be, and then we started pulling in books, that has inspired me to read other books before, and more than I did previously.
that's good.
Yeah, so that's it's tremendously helped push me into the lifetime learning that they discussed in the
Right.
book.
I'm glad you said that, because Dr. Kimball used that exact term,
Lifetime learning.
lifetime learning. Because you never get to the point, where you know it all. It's lifetime learning. It's like you go and get a degree, even you go and get a degree, you got a degree in CPA. Well, you don't know it all. There's new laws coming out, there's new certifications coming out, and you probably do something to keep abreast of the new regulations, depending on what your job is. So it's lifetime learning. You don't just go to school and get a degree and say, well, I'm done. And then that's it. You always want to be in lifetime learning, grabbing, like you said, grabbing books and reading about whatever, maybe reading about your particular career choice, or like we're doing now. It's a career it's a career to leave a legacy. It's a career in itself.
Right.
Because you got to put yourself out there in a way that maybe you're a little uncomfortable with, because you got this dream in your head that you've been juggling around in there for a couple of years, in that big old head of yours.
Well, I like that you keep giving me that CPA certification. I appreciate that.
See, I was spoken into existence. See, I done put it in the atmosphere.
You putting it there. You are putting it there. So I
got me feeling
that.
But it's out there now. Now you got to go. Now you got to own up to it.
That's right. Now I got to do something about that now, because Tom done put it out there. So I got to do something about that.
right.
On page 133, guys, I know we got about 3 minutes and to wrap up, but I wanted to talk through a little bit, going back to kind of talking through some of the things in reference to psychology. I know I've read about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it talks about Maslow and talks about self-actualization and different things in reference to your psychology. And it talks about Maxwell Maltz in reference to kind of how he talked about how we have to, I guess, imagine ourselves in reference to kind of where we want to be and how we want to grow, those different things. And so what it says on here, it says every fortune has its start in the mind of a single man or woman. So what they're saying is that you have to visualize your success. You have to visualize where you want to go and ultimately where you want to be. And so for here, it all starts there. It says millionaires form the habit of seeing things not as they are, but as they perhaps will be. As they could be, as they insist they be.
Mhm.
To the wealthy, sight is at a quality of the mind, a mental perception, and not just a physical process.
Mhm.
That's cool. I saw that and I highlighted it and I kind of put some stars beside it because it just says this, the wealthy strive to reach their objectives. They are trained. They train their thinking and beliefs to correct and capture what lies in their view. And that's what's happening. Faith drives you to where you want to be. You know,
Yeah.
the devil always kind of comes in to try to pick your brain, tell you when you're not good enough, you can't do it, you shouldn't do it, you woulda, coulda, put people and obstacles in your way, but you have to push through those barriers. Those are nothing but barriers that stop you from getting to where you need to be.
Yep.
And so what we have to first decide, and I know LT, you talked about it a couple weeks ago in reference to an action plan. I think we need to start working on our action plans in order to get to where we ultimately want to go. That can change. Our dreams and our action plans can change. It can pivot, but we still have to come up with these particular pieces and start talking through those things and then start moving the pieces, the steps towards that. So I just thought how I really like that he said that they see things as they should be or they can be, or how they insist they be. I like that.
Yeah.
How they insist it should be, because it's like someone can tell you can't do it, but no, you can't tell me I can't do that. That's not up for you to decide. It's up for me to decide where my life goes. And I think that's so empowering here. That's why I was like, this third chapter is really probably the one that I like the best up until now. Believe in thyself when no one else will, because you cannot stop on what someone tells you. You got to believe in who you are. If you're the only person that believes in who you are and who you will be.
Right. And where you're going, the money you're gonna earn, less you're gonna leave. You gotta, again, that goes back to that inner belief. Even Dr. Kimbrough in some of his videos, he says be inner directed instead of outer directed. Oftentimes in the Black community, we as somebody broke, what do you think about this idea? Well, you ain't got no money. Why you gonna ask a blind? Why you gonna ask a blind man for direction? You live by blindness. You know.
I mean, that's true. I mean,
it's true.
That's not to say that they can't come up, but initially you want to bind yourself with people that either go in your same direction or already acquire what you have. Well, I'm sorry, already acquire what you want. Okay.
Well, that's being in the room. It's like if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong
You're in the wrong room.
Right.
And that's the key to that, is knowing that if you're the smartest tool in the shed, then you don't have an iron that's sharpening you. Iron sharpens iron. And you got to have other people who are there to really teach you something. A lot of times you have to be in a room with people that can give you something, that can teach you something. And if you're the sharpest tool in the room, guess what? You're in the wrong room. So let's stop there, guys. I was going to say, this has been a really great conversation. I know we have about another couple of pages of the third chapter that we want to get through. And what we can do is come back to that next week, kind of talk through that a little bit more, talks in reference to kind of some of the millionaire's lessons there. And it talks about a couple of other stories here. Then also let's talk about going to chapter 4. It says, to thine own self be true, find your unique gifts. We'll talk about the 4th law of wealth there. So we'll be able to discuss that particular one next week on there. Did anybody else have anything that they wanted to say before we wrap up today?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, guys. Well, this has been a great discussion. I think this is the biggest thing today, is taking that faith, that we gotta definitely look at our faith and think through that, and make sure that we're, regardless of what we're doing each and every day, that we have to believe in ourselves and make sure that regardless of what's happening, that our faith shall lead us. So thanks, book club. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk next week. Okay.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you.
All right, you guys.
All right.
Later.
All right. Bye.